Dr. Jeff DIY here. I'm going to replace this leaking oil pump on my 1996 2.3 liter Ford Ranger. If you're going to do this job, you're also going to encounter the timing belt and maybe the water pump, so it's a pretty big job. And if you're going to do such a big job, you might as well make it easier. I removed the radiator already, and here I'm showing you that if you go through the grill, you get a lot more access. It's pretty easy to remove the grill as well, which is what I'm showing you here, just 6 screws. If you do this step, it's going to make the rest of your job a lot easier because you can reach through with great access instead of trying to squeeze in between from above and bending your back. There you have it. So like I said, if you're doing the oil pump, you have to remove the timing belt. And here I'm just showing you how to get into TDC in the compression stroke on all the timing marks. And while this isn't a timing belt video, I did want to show just a couple key steps on how to remove the belt. The spring bolt is 17 millimeters and the tensioner was 13 millimeters. I did a little PB blaster to make things easier. And then you basically just loosen the bolts. The idea is that you're going to allow the spring bolt to move and the tensioner to move as well. And then what you have to do is use a little leverage to get that tensioner pulley to move. I didn't have the specialty timing belt removal tool, but I did have a big old wrench, and that provided me the leverage I needed. Now I'm just tightening it down in place in the looser position, and as you can see, you can just remove the belt. Now, to remove the sprocket, it's a 17 millimeter. And I guess I could have done this with the timing belt in place, but the instructions I had said to remove it first, so I followed those. And luckily, it wasn't too hard to get off.
This was super fortunate.
That was a real blessing. Next step, you're supposed to remove the camshaft position sensor. It has 2 screws. The red arrow is showing the one that's a little hidden below, and they're both 7 millimeter. Pretty darn small. There, I'm removing the lower one. And once you get them both off, you can remove the sensor. Note the orientation. The round hole was on the bottom and the oval slot was towards the top. Just like that. Now to remove that clip. Not too bad. Now this part wasn't included in the instructions I had for the oil pump removal, but I thought I'm probably going to need to change my oil anyway, and I don't want to remove the pump and have a bunch of oil spill out. So I decided to drain the oil. This might not have been necessary though, but here you have it. Ah, refreshing. Now I'm just cleaning up that 15 millimeter drain plug, wiping up the oil, and start it up by hand. Then I like to put a little paper towel around it as I screw it in place to wipe up any oil that's left. The torque spec is 15 to 25 foot-pounds, and I decided on 21, so that way I knew I'd be legal. Before removing the oil pump, I decided to try to clean the engine with the gunk degreaser. This cardboard is just to protect from overspray and any electronic bits. Here I'm preparing for a potential gush of spill when I take out the oil pump, but it actually didn't happen. The oil pump bolts were all 8 millimeters, and they came off pretty easy, thank goodness. Here I'm showing you that there's a lip on the oil pump where you're supposed to use a screwdriver for leverage against the block. So what I did is I did a little leveraging there, and then since you're only pulling from the top, I tried to tap it back in with a screwdriver like I'm showing you here so I could kind of alternate a little up and down pressure. Then ultimately I was able to pull it out like this. And thank goodness there was no massive spill. Here you're going to get a look at the old oil pump. Kind of cool. You can see some of the oil burn marks. I think this is actually the original. And here I'm just showing you how it looked. The O-rings you may not be able to appreciate on the video, but they got a little flattened, and I think that could have allowed for some leaking. The rubber basically wears out over time due to heat. So clean out the old oil, and it'll look something like that. And then don't forget to remove the gasket. and clean the block. My instructions said to add some oil so that it wasn't empty, so I replaced some. And here's the part number for the new oil pump. Be sure to note that the gasket has an orientation where one side is meant to be against the block, as I was showing you there. You're supposed to add 236 milliliters of oil to prime the pump. I measured it in that can first. I couldn't get it all to go in, and then I used my hand to operate the pump from below and got it to drip in. Be sure to lubricate the new O-rings with some oil. Now here's the real benefit of the grill being out of the way. My arms are going through the grill, and I have a straight shot at pushing this in here. Then you just kind of screw in the screws and try to push it in evenly, but it kind of wanted to wobble side to side. As I'm going to show you here, I do that part and it kind of pulls up to the top left. Then I do that part and it pulls downward and shifted. So that's how it went in for me. The torque spec is written above. I chose 110 inch-pounds. Make sure it's inch-pounds. And then I just tightened it in a star pattern. And it was pretty much already tightened there because of the hand tightening I did earlier. These are pretty small screws, so you don't want to over-torque them. Now, when I took off the sprocket, it came off quite easily, and I thought I was really lucky. So I put a tiny bit of anti-seize on this when I put it back in case I ever need to do this job again. So that hopefully it won't rust in place. There we go. Little bit of thread locker on that bolt there, and hand tighten it. Zoom! Now I'm going to use my little device there to hold it in place. I just did a couple spritzes of my impact. Didn't have a torque wrench setting for that, so I just tried not to overdo it. Here I'm showing you you're supposed to prime the pump by rotating it 10 times. So I did that. I didn't really notice any increase in resistance, but it said you may, and that's to be expected, or at least normal. This is the part number for the camshaft sensor. And here I'm showing you the new part was a little different than the old one. I don't have a through hole for the screw, but it does have that raised round bit, so I think it'll still fit in okay. And this is such a tiny thing that has a small screw and low torque setting that I don't think it probably needs 2 screws. Now I'm reconnecting the electrical after I cleaned it up and put on a little dielectric grease. The round part goes on the bottom, and it helped hold it in place there. And I just hand tightened it and tightened it a little more with a socket. And I think the whole reason they have a torque setting for this is just so that you don't overdo it. And as you can see, it's a pretty light setting. So that really concludes the oil pump procedure. But of course, you have to put the timing belt back on and put everything back together. And I'll show that in another video. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button so it's easier to find by others. Consider subscribing. I'm really grateful for all the subscribers I have, and I can't believe I'm almost to 1,000. This is Dr. Jeff DIY. I'll see you the next time something breaks.